everyone. Happy Fabulous Friday. I am Hayley Hoffman, the founder and CEO of Dandi Day, and I am joined today by the beautiful Jennifer Norman of the Human Beauty Movement. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So as we invited you to come and be part of the Fabulous Friday discussion, and as I conceptualize these talks, it's really a place for the beauty community to come and have some personal and professional development, because there's so many programs and webinars and information about marketing, about products, about technologies, about everything else out there, but there's not a lot of places just to come and share our stories as being women, being mothers, friends, daughters, and just an opportunity to expand in that way. So I know that's something that's very near and dear to you, and that's why you're here. So I have seen your story, and I was supportively stalking you on LinkedIn for for a while. I was like, ooh, I really like this lady. And then, of course, after we had our initial meeting, finding out that you are a Korean adoptee, just like me, was very special. And I think it really adds a lot of context, especially for me, on the talk that you're going to give today, that inward beauty. And so I think as adoptees, typically having parents that don't look like you really have to search inward to find those beautiful places and in life. So I am just so excited, and thank you so much. So if you'd like to make an introduction to yourself,
Yes.
I will.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Hayley, for welcoming me today. And thank you for all the work that you're doing to bring women together. And, right now we are a small and mighty group of people who are really trying to make a difference. Not only, within our personal lives, but again, with the community and within beauty. I think almost everybody that is going to be watching this webinar, at least live right now, is probably got some sort of tap into the beauty industry in some way. And so just wanted to talk about that for a bit. Yeah, my name is Jennifer, and I grew up on the East Coast. I've been in Los Angeles area for about 20 years now. My entire career has been in the beauty industry, and it has definitely been something that has been so rewarding. But then as time went on, I just noticed that there were things that didn't sit very well with me, and I think that a lot of you might have recognized this, that the beauty industry has gone through a lot of transition lately. Over the past 10, 20 years, there has been almost this awakening. And here we are together talking about consciousness. Who would have ever have thought that people in the beauty industry would be talking about consciousness, many, many years ago? But this is the unique and wonderful world that we're in. I started the Human Beauty Movement because I really felt that the beauty industry could continue and needed to continue doing better. We needed to do more to help society, and frankly, potentially right some of the wrongs that may have been done in the past. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But then also from an environmental and a sustainable perspective, there are things that were really near and dear to me as far as just values of inclusivity, being the Korean adoptee and understanding what it feels like to be marginalized and not knowing or feeling like that you have your group or your tribe around you when you're growing up is not easy, especially being adoptee, as you just don't necessarily feel like you even have like a sense of family like a lot of your friends around you had growing up. And so there definitely was this inclination that I had in founding the Human Beauty Movement to really give everybody a seat at the table, make everybody feel valued, feel heard, feel welcome. I am a mom of a special needs boy who suffers from a severe disability. So being a special needs mom, it really opened my eyes to the need for inclusivity, not just from, you know, a racial standpoint, but also from a you know, an ability standpoint too. And then it really gave me a focus on wellness and what it really means to be well, and what it really means to be healthy, and what it really means to have gratitude in your life for everything that we have and that we kind of take for granted, right? So the topic that I wanted to talk about is really how beauty, and you know, this is a multidimensional word that, you know, is often thrown around, just like the word love is thrown around in many different ways, but it has so many different layers and so many different meanings. I truly believe that beauty is power, and there are ways that we can harness it. And the way that we want to do that, of course, is for good, for the greater good, because certainly we can weaponize our beauty, we can use it against, and we could use it as a force for not so good, or a force for selfishness, but how to really use that power and use it as a force of good, force for good. And so, you know, as we kind of delve into this talk, and I know that you know, I'm really grateful for everybody who's joined, and I know that your time is precious, so I want to try to pack as much quality content into the time that we have together. It's important for us to remember that, like, this is a safe place. This is a judgment-free zone. I want everybody to use this time to feel that they can just reflect upon themselves and be honest with themselves, be vulnerable with themselves, because a lot of times what we have as a voice in our head is not necessarily our voice, it's somebody else's voice speaking to us. And it's somebody else saying, or it's the judgment that we feel that other people are having upon us. And what does that do? That creates a sense of insecurity. And so that really devalues the power that we have. If you think about when you're young and impressionable, and all of the different influences that are coming at you, this is the time when kids are very impressionable young women, and they're looking to media, they're looking to magazines, they're looking to social media for cues on identity and on how they should show up in the world. And boy, are they getting tossed around. And so they have not yet developed a core, a strong center. And so the more that we as beauty industry leaders can provide a shining light and an array of positivity for this is a good way to showcase your beauty and how to have a relationship with beauty. I think that will help a lot of people with respect to their mental health. I know that when I was young, I suffered from bulimia. I suffered from depression. I went through all of these things in search of identity and feeling like I needed to look or be like somebody else that I wasn't. And it led to a lot of issues. And I think that, you know, that is probably a story that can be told 1,000-fold, maybe even 1,000,000-fold by a lot of girls and frankly young boys, you know, around the world, is that, you know, they just don't feel like they can live up to expectations. And so, you know, let's take a moment and boil back down to, you know, where this all comes from and what we can do in the future to kind of course correct. So, I mean, it's no secret that people who are perceived as beautiful, and by beautiful, I mean like the physical, the superficial, people who seem like they've got it all together, you know, that are attractive, tend to make more money, they tend to get the jobs, they tend to get elected as politicians, they tend to get mates that perhaps are more successful and have a little bit of an easier way in life. And so, yes, this 3D world values that kind of expression. And so for me to say beauty doesn't matter, or it's all about the inside, unfortunately, because of the world that we're living in and everything that has kind of anthropologically and frankly evolutionarily led up to this point, we still are ones that look for mating cues or you know, tribe cues, and try to you know, be part of a collective that is more aspirational. And that is how we essentially find a bit of identity or aspiration within ourselves. There was this interesting quote from a philosopher who pretty much said that beauty is the promise of happiness. And I think that that's kind of funny, because even Charles Revson said, you know, we're not selling beauty products, we're selling hope in a bottle. And so it's like this idea that beauty is the attainable, that there is something more in life that is worth living. Funny, isn't that? Well, what I want to do is say, yes, that's very interesting and true, but let's use that and let's make sure that we are in control of how we show up in the world, rather than feeling like we have to be dictated to. How can we then, yeah, for sure. How can we, you know, take everything that is like the, you know, wholesome and wonderful about ourselves and express our own version of beauty, rather than necessarily trying to look like somebody else or be like somebody else? Because then what happens is you get this dissonance, right? There's this feeling of inadequacy, there's a feeling of insecurity, there's a feeling of intimidation that happens. Frankly, like for people who are sapiosexual, if you're a woman and you see a man and that person is really good looking, you're either entertained, you're either aroused, you're intrigued, or you know, there are various like really like, you know, deep down kinds of visceral things that you're feeling, and why you know, you would find that person attractive. The same thing for men. They're going to find somebody more attractive either because they want to mate with you, because they want to talk with you, or they you know, it's just an intrinsic part of beauty and cultural aspect, and how we continue populating the earth. It's like a, you know, a beautiful flower that's in bloom is going to be picked when it's like that. So it's kind of like the circle of life. So essentially, I would love for everybody to kind of stop and think, like, when you woke up this morning, did you say to yourself, I feel so beautiful today? Like, is that ever something that anybody feels, or is that something, like, honestly tell yourself or think to yourself, how did you wake up and how did you feel about yourself? A lot of times, our self-talk, right, Hayley? Why don't you use yourself as an example? How did you feel this morning when you didn't have a nanny this week?
I felt a bit exhausted, and I felt very, very capable. So in a way, maybe I felt very beautiful because I knew that I could show up today. But I wouldn't say that I usually wake up and the first thought in my head is, I feel so beautiful. and I think even, you know, as an adoptee, writing you were talking about how like we're informed about who we are by our surroundings, like having no Asians growing up around me. And I think it's the same thing for you. I did not feel beautiful for a really, really long time. I just felt weird, and I was like, I look different. And it probably wasn't until maybe a few years ago that I was like, you know what? I think I'm pretty darn cute. And I think even in that, like I still hesitate to say like, oh yeah, I feel like so beautiful, because it's still, it's kind of it's an interesting thing, right, for us and identity.
Well, congratulations. It's a journey. It really is. And that's the thing about everything that I am about to share with you, is that there is usually not an epiphany, like all of a sudden you wake up and poof, life has changed and you're set, you're golden. It's usually just like in yoga, you know, they call it a practice for a reason. I believe that anything that you're trying to do in life is a practice. It's not an end goal. It's not an end state. It's kind of like you're going up a slow migrating hill, and then you might feel like you're kind of at the peak, and then, oh, something might get out of control. But then it's kind of like, okay, how do you get back into equilibrium? How do you maintain that balance and that harmony in life? Of course, there are going to be days where you're going to roll back this way, and there's going to be days where life is just going to like run away with you. And that's essentially what happens with beauty. You know, we're experimenting, we're trying to figure it out, we feel like we've got it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, I'm obsessed with selfie filters, that's my new thing. Or gosh, I'm obsessed with buying too many cosmetics, or I'm obsessed with skincare. Oh, I'm examining every single pore, and then it becomes like this runaway train of obsession. How do you kind of migrate from apathy and not caring to a place where you're like really feeling confident and okay with showing up in the world the way that you wish to, versus having everything just kind of running out of control? And so the first thing that I wanted to kind of to share with you, I was just recently reading Jay Shetty's Think Like a Monk, and he uses this technique called spot, stop, and swap. And I think that's a little bit of a mouthful, so I usually just say swap it. It's kind of like when you, if you notice yourself talking down to yourself, because a lot of us are very self-deprecating, or we feel not so great, like notice it, spot it, and then exchange it with a positivity. Exchange it with something that is good about yourself. Like if you're feeling like drudgery when you're waking up in the morning, you know, notice it, and then be like, you know what, today is going to be a great day. It's going to be a beautiful day. I'm going to feel really good about everything that I can accomplish today. And so noticing your self-talk, I think, is one thing. Another thing is to notice how competitive you are with other people. Now, it's okay for motivation. It's wonderful to have ambition, but if the reason why you're kind of expressing yourself is to try to be more beautiful than the next person, or get something that somebody else has, or try to denigrate somebody else, think about the way that you're competing. Think about the way that you're thinking about your relationship with other people. Notice your intention. And so that goes into like why you're doing what you're doing. Are you wearing something? Are you buying something because, you know, it's just fun and it's for pleasure and it makes you feel fulfilled and it adds to the quality of your life? Or are you doing it to try to show off? Or are you doing it to try to impress somebody else? And so notice what your real intention is of why you're doing or behaving in a certain way in order to kind of manifest your beauty. Think about the emotion that you feel, like when you actually do feel really good about yourself. You know, is it that, you know, you're kind of flaunting it and that you're trying to be, you know, very proud or egocentric? Or is it something where you really feel like, you know, I'm honoring and I'm expressing the real me that's inside? So again, you know, your self-talk, the way you're competing, your intentions, and then the way that your emotions are kind of coming out. If you're noticing that any of those are leaning towards what I would call like subtle toxicity, where, you know, it either ends up in lust, or I think about the seven sins, right? It's like lust or envy or anything like, you know, that just makes you not feel good, or is causing somebody else to not feel good about themselves, especially in the beauty industry. If you notice, and you may not even be the marketer for your company, but if you work for an organization and you notice that they're putting out messages that say, make them jealous, or, you know, buy this because, you know, this is going to make you so much better, you're going to get that, call them out on it. I mean, it's important for us to have responsibility for the messages and for the organizations that we're working for and for the content that we're creating, and keep everybody in check, because because I feel like the more that stuff gets out into the universe and the more that it is okay, the more that we are putting out this notion of obsession or compulsion, or feeding on women's and men's insecurities in order to buy. That is creating unwellness, that is creating unhealthiness. And so for us in this forum, since we're all about conscientiousness and mindfulness, let us be mindful of the messages that our organizations are putting out there. And not that we have to get into cancel culture, because I don't really advise that either. I really feel that it's a learning process. We can mention it, we can say, you know, I really feel that there's a better way to do this, and here's why, and let's influence, and let's do it in a very positive way, than, you know, rather than just saying, you know, you messed up, that's it, I'm never working with you or using you again, right?
Yeah,
So
conversation is important.
yeah, the conversation, the learning, the mutual understanding, and really starting with the why. And so there is a certain acronym that I'd like to share, which is, you know, a key way of harnessing your beauty and creating that power, and always kind of keeping yourself in check and making sure that you're doing it for good. And so the way that I like to think about it is like, think of yourself as an apple that has this beautiful, lovely outside. Well, you want to make sure that not only is the outside nice and shiny and polished, and of course, you know, we all know that the world can bruise us, but we can heal. You really got to make sure that you have a real good, solid core. Because after all, an apple is not just an apple, it is an orchard. And everything that starts and germinates from the core, all those seeds are going to spread out into the world and start germinating more trees to create more apples. And so let us create the most beautiful, glorious apples that we can by having a solid core. And so how do we nourish the core? I kind of use the acronym CORE. And I'm one that usually likes to start from bottom up, right? So I like to start with the E. The E stands for essence. Think about the essence of who you truly are deep inside and nourish that. Really get to know yourself, sit with yourself, take the time to just spend quality time with yourself, whether it's in meditation or just enjoying being you. Really nourish your essence, and then I feel like that is a good way that people start to notice what they're about and who they are, and really, you know, falling in love with themselves, right? Then we get to the R. The R are nourishing our relationships. How do we, as a perfectly wonderful human being within our essence, relate to our friends and our family? And how do we have a positive influence and shine a light onto those that are close around us, with our colleagues, with our communities, and then with the rest of the world? The O for me stands for optimism. If you're nourishing your optimism, I don't think that you can ever go wrong. I really feel that the hopefulness that we all love as beauty is really shining best when there's positivity, and when there's really this sense that we're all in this together and we can do anything, we can conquer anything, we can be anything. That is the conveyance of that power, right? And then for me, the C, which I find is my life's mission, is all about compassion. And so the compassion component is all about not just being empathetic to others around you, and not necessarily just saying like, you know what, I appreciate you, hopes and prayers, and then you go along your way. Compassion is being active. You really have to have you have to act in order to be compassionate, or otherwise it's not considered compassion. The definition of compassion is acting with care. And so getting up and doing something is the way to actually catalyze the beauty and the power in order to do all that good that comes from your essence, your relationships, and your optimism. And so spreading out compassion to me is the best way. And, you know, all of it kind of culminating together is a really good way to harness the power of your beauty.
Oh, I love that. Gosh, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed how you started from the bottom. I think as I was visualizing the essence, the relationships, the optimism, and then the compassion, it is that true, she said, inward, outward, beauty. And it can be really hard, I think, to create that quiet, right? To be able to hear who your essence is, right? And to accept it, to accept the essence of who you are, and not be embarrassed by it, or repulsed, or wish it was different, or all of these different things that can come up, right? And yeah, so I think what I really want to do is encourage everybody who's watching or listening to really take a moment, and when you think about your essence,
Mm-hmm.
to,
Do it right now. Take a moment.
yeah.
Take a moment and think about not necessarily what others, because it's interesting how when people say, well, how would friends describe you? It's usually a label of
Mm-hmm.
sorts. But
Mm-hmm.
the essence of who you are, to me, are your values. Like, what are those things that you really value? And that, I think, is the essence that you are shining through into the world, and that is your light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Definitely.
And it's nice to do a little bit of breathing while you're thinking about it, because sometimes those answers come to you. Sometimes they come, when you least expect it. But you're exactly right, especially when we're in lockdown. We've got kids, we've got work at
Mm-hmm.
home. Everything seems to be jumbled up, and trying to compartmentalize and actually take time for you is like sacred at this
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Um,
Well, let's
yeah.
just take then about 20 seconds. And so, all the participants, if you'd like to close your eyes
Mm.
and just take some deep breaths. And as you're breathing, see what comes up for you. And as Jennifer said, maybe just notice it. There's no judgment around it. Just notice what's coming up for you. There might be many things that are coming up for you. And let the ones that aren't so important, or they seem to be passing by you fairly quickly, then just let those go. But if something comes up, a thought that you have a feeling towards or trigger something in you, maybe hold that and just think about it in a non-judgmental way. And if you feel comfortable, as Jennifer set the stage so beautifully, to this is a safe place for everyone. If you feel comfortable and you'd like to share that thought, that feeling, or that word, that essence of who you are, please share in the chat box. But if you don't feel like you want to do that, that's okay too. I'm going to take just a few more seconds. If you want to really come back into your breath, open your eyes. Okay, that was very nice. I love doing that. So let's see. We had, thank you, Sarah, for sharing hope and light. You're beautiful. So for me, mine came up as fun. I feel like the essence of who I am is fun and silly. I'm not sure if that's what always comes out, but that's how I feel inside the who I am. What about you, Jennifer? Would you like to share?
I was just going to say, well, you named your business Dandi Day, so I think that makes perfect sense.
I guess it is showing up. Okay.
No, I think it's lovely. It's lovely. For me, I get this sense that what I like to do is talk to my higher self when I sit in meditation,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel that the answers come when I'm thinking about what would my older self want to say to guide me? What would my higher
Mm-hmm.
self say to guide me? And oftentimes, what the message that comes back is continue serving, do everything in service to others. And the more that I can be a vehicle and a light for others to either gain any inspiration from, or some wisdom that comes from elsewhere, then that's really what I'm here for. That's my role.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to help others harness that beauty that they really have, and for everybody to feel that they are whole and that they are powerful and that they're beautiful and that they have this incredible, incredible life force that's inside them. A lot of us just take it for granted. The fact that everything works and that we're here and we're living and we're making, we're making our way. And as women, we've come so far. Oh my goodness. It's just, to me, one of those things where I just feel an enormous sense of gratitude and understand that I have a dharma that is really all about being, this purpose of compassion and being able to share that with others.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, and for sharing your precious time with us in the community today. So we
thank
can
you, Hayley,
look at that.
and thank you everybody who's watching. I am so appreciative.
And we will see you soon, and make it a great day. I know you will. So bye, everyone. Thank you.